Hey guys, so now that we are past the initial phase, I guess, of hype for the 7th year anniversary units, I want to sit down and just quickly talk about my thoughts on the units. I released the other video discussing the actual translations and the kits of what these characters can do. Didn't talk about my thoughts just because I wanted to get that video out ASAP, so in this video, I'm just going to be adding on sort of like what I think about these units and just try to explain to you guys just why these characters, the Dual Dokkan Fest LR characters, are like seemingly almost untouchable in terms of how good they are in this game. So the first thing I want to mention, and I'm not going to touch on everything about these characters just because there's literally so much to talk about. Like, again, it took me over an hour and a half just to type all this stuff. This is one unit, by the way. This, starting from these 2 pages, this and this is literally one character. That is insane. It's ridiculous to see how far this game has come to where, you used to have a character that had a passive, you had like 5 or 6 links and a super attack, and that's it. That was the entire character. Now you have 12 and 18 key super attacks, you have introduction animations, you have active skills, you have categories like transformations into like basically everything. Like it's a new character almost. Like it's absurd what this game has become, and I'm excited to see what this game can do moving forward from here. But let's start talking off with just the new leader skills and also the new leader skill mechanic that these units introduce. So the first thing is going to be the Fusion/Potara Warriors category, which is actually pretty much what we have been asking for such a long time. It's basically just the de facto Fusion Warriors category. If you guys play Dragon Ball Legends, the way that game has, they call it tags instead of categories, but the way that game classifies characters is via tags like Dokkan has categories, and they have a Fusion Warrior category or Fusion Warrior tag where every single like fused character, whether it's Vegeta, Gogeta, Super 17, Kefla, Gotenks, they're all under that same tag. That's essentially what this is, and I'm glad that we finally have this in the game. It just adds more expansion to team building, and it lets this unit as a leader really shine a lot. GT heroes, not really anything too crazy. We already had really good GT heroes category leaders, but having another one wouldn't hurt at all. And then they have this additional boost here, the Kamehameha boost. So the way that this works is, obviously you want to be under the 2 main categories for this leader skill, but then in addition to this, if you are also in the Kamehameha category, you are going to be receiving an extra 30% stat boost for HP attack and defense. So for instance, if you're using this character as a leader, and let's say you put, I don't know, the STR Super Vegeta, right, from the Worldwide Celebration in 2020 on your team, they're going to be getting the main leader skill buff. So they're going to be getting the Fusion/Potara Warrior buff, right? Key plus 370% to stats across the board. And then they're also going to be getting an additional 30% stat buff because they're also in the Kamehameha category. So in total, that character, that STR Vegeta character, will be receiving a key plus 3 and 200% stat across the board buff. This is a major step forward in power creep for this game, and we haven't really seen power creep in the form of leader skills in a very long time. We've had this category meta around since pretty much 5 years ago. It's been a little bit less than 5 years, but yeah, it's been around for a very, very long time. But to see this extra step forward in terms of leader skills, I actually think this is a good way of doing this because it lets you, mix and match units that you think are going to work better with the team for the, specifically the way that they're doing it for this leader skill here. But it doesn't make it so that you could just put any. It's not just like oh, this is just a dual category leader skill, and then they're just making it 200%. You have to fulfill an extra condition to get the extra buff, and I think that actually does work pretty well. If a unit, maybe you think they're too valuable to just put on the team, even though they're not getting the secondary buff, you can do that, or you can just build it fully around the secondary buff as well. So basically, the more specific you build your team, the stronger they will be, and I think that's a fine trade-off, right? The one thing that I think is interesting about this is nobody's really talked about the HP side of this, right? Because you already have a 170% lead to HP, then you're adding an additional 30% HP to your team per character who fulfills this condition. So it's like, if you have a full team where you're making use of the full leader skill here, you have a 200% HP leader skill, right? And it's like if you have a lot of LRs on your team, you're gonna see, I think, very often these teams eclipse like 750,000 HP almost with that extra boost. So thinking about that, like to me, that seems like one of the most ridiculous things ever, because you also have the defensive buff as well. Like it's crazy. You're almost never gonna die with this leader skill. And then the other thing I really wanted to touch on for this character is the fact that the first part of their passive, in combination with their fusion active skill condition, I think is what makes this character as good as they are. And what I mean by that is this character has a 1-turn guard. So the first appearance that they have in a fight, they will be guarding all attacks. But then their transformation condition is able to be used after 4 turns on the lapse from the start of battle. So if you think about that, and you think about when are these characters, when is this unit exposed to being, taking a lot of damage? There's a situation where you're literally never exposed. Because once you get to Gogeta, I'm not going to go into depth too much about this guy, but once you go into actually Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta himself, you will never die. You will never die as a result of this guy taking a lot of damage. So if you make it to Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, you pretty much just win instantly. But because this unit's able to guard against all attacks for the first turn, if this unit is on your second rotation, they're going to be guarding in turn 2, and then the next time they come around, you're just going to be able to fuse right away. And once you do that, you're going to have a stack of defense, or 2 or 3 potential stacks of defense, because they do stack defense on 12 and 18 key super attack, right? So you're going to be guarding during that first turn. They can perform an additional super attack guaranteed when you have over 20 or more key. So you're going to, in most scenarios, doing multiple stacks of defense during that first turn, so that even if this unit shows up on your first rotation, they're not going to be able to fuse during turn 3, but you're going to have at least 2 stacks of their defense, right? Because this unit being a GT Heroes leader, and on the GT Heroes team, you're going to most likely be running this unit with at least 1 orb changer, because the 2 GT Super Saiyan characters, Goku and Vegeta, are both rainbow orb changers, right? Not to mention they also do get extra key spheres. So it's like the or extra key from key spheres. It's basically like the LR Gohan mechanic. So it's going to be extremely easy to get this unit over 20 key. They're going to be able to stack defense, at least twice per turn. They're guarding during the first turn, and then once you make it to Gogeta, they're just you win the game. So my conclusion for this unit, and the same thing is going to be true for the other unit as well, is that the amount of I guess what's the best way to word this? There are like almost no scenarios where this unit is exposed to taking a lot of damage, because turn 1 they're guarding. Then you're going to be able to stack their defense. So, if you don't end up fusing on the next rotation, they're going to still be able to just sit there and be fine and continue stacking every single turn. They're going to get at least, assuming you built the team correctly, 2 stacks of defense per turn. And then if, you see the enemy attacking like 9 billion, jillion, fulfillion times in the front, you just fuse. Because this doesn't have an HP restriction on it, the fusion active skill. And let me just quickly talk about Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta here, because this unit is, like, honestly, probably just like the most broken unit in the game just ever, besides like STR Gogeta or something. So, because the way that this works is, remember, you're stacking your defense during 12 and 18 key steepers before you fuse. That carries over to the post-fusion Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. So Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is entering the turn, assuming you have him under, assuming you have him as your leader, right? Because you're going to be getting the 200% boost here. He's entering the turn with like 300k defense. He's massively raising his attack and defense for 1 turn. So that basically doubles your defense. So let's just assume, here's a scenario for you guys, okay? Let's just assume that he starts the turn with 300k defense, which is not out of the question, because we just did a showcase over on the Twitch channel where he started the turn with 333k defense. So I'm just going to round it down to 300k, just for simplicity's sake. So starts the turn with 300k defense. He does an 18 key super attack, so that's going to raise his defense from 300k to 600k. Then he has a high chance to perform an additional super attack in his passive. Okay, so let's just assume you get that. He's going to be able to get a great stack of attack and defense for 1 turn. So that's 300k, 300k, then 50% raise, 150k. Right, so that's going to be 750k defense. He's at that point. Then he could do another additional 12 key super attack. By the way, all these attacks are effective against all types, just so you guys know, and a medium chance to crit. So if he does that additional super attack, he'll be at 900k defense, plus he has a 50% chance to nullify enemy super attacks and counter tremendous power. So he has a 50% chance to counter supers. And then he has 7% damage reduction per Rainbow Keister obtained, which should be, you know, I would say an average of 2 Rainbow Keisters per turn, assuming you run the GT Super Saiyans in your team, who are Rainbow Orb Changers. This could be as high as, well, I guess, yeah, it could be as high as 35% damage reduction, but that's very, very uncommon. I think 2 to 3 Rainbow Orbs is probably the average, assuming you run double Orb Changers in your team. So 900k defense with a 50% chance to nullify supers and counter with, like, you know, 15% damage reduction. So he's invincible. This is the takeaway from this. Plus, he also has an active skill, pretty easy to activate. It's, you know, ultimate damage, guaranteed crits for the remainder of the turn. This Gogeta is pretty much invincible. I don't really see a way that he can really die or not just kill the enemy in one turn. So that's going to be all I'll talk about with this character. I mean, it's like almost like a cheat code. Not really much else to say here. The one other thing to mention real quick, which is also again going to apply to the other, you know, the God Goku and the Vegeta character, is that they built these units in a way so that their links do not change once they transform. So for instance, this Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta, Super Saiyan, Kamehameha, Shocking Speed, GT, Fierce Battle, Saiyan Roar, and Legendary Power. He transforms and fuses into Gogeta. The link set is the exact same. They actually did not give Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta Fuse Fighter, which is actually unprecedented, I think, because it's like a, you know, every fusion unit in the game has that, I think. So they decided to leave him with Saiyan Roar. So what you could do is you could actually run a rotation of the pre-fused unit and the Gogeta. So you'll have a rotation where all 7 links are active, and it's super easy to do. So that is a very big positive for this unit. And again, the same thing goes for the Tech God Goku and Vegeta. I'm not really going to go into too much depth here because this character is literally the exact same character as the Super Saiyan 4's pre-transformation. They have the exact same, literally, this is literally 1 for 1. The only difference is their leader skill. We have the Power Beyond Super Saiyan category, which is, I believe it's just literally every Super Saiyan form after Super Saiyan. So it's a pretty expansive team. And then they have finally we get a new movie heroes lead. That is what we've been waiting for a long time. And then they have the Kamehameha secondary boost there as well. Super attack effects as well as passive, as well as the active skill conditions are the literally exact same as the Super Saiyan 4s. Links are Super Saiyan, Kamehameha, Warrior Gods, Godly Power, Prepare for Battle, Fierce Battle, Legendary Power. Very, very good link set for Realm of Gods based characters. So keep that in mind. And then when they transform, they have slight differences from Gogeta. So the way that Gogeta works is he gets damage reduction and crit per Rainbow Keister obtained, whereas this unit gets crit and evasion or dodge chance. This unit also has an innate 30% chance to dodge due to the medium chance to evade enemy attacks at the end there. And then they get attacks effective against all types when its key is 16 or above. And then they get a guaranteed additional super. And then another 30% chance to crit when key is 20 or more. So this unit, I believe Gogeta does not actually get a guaranteed additional super attack. I don't think. Let me just double check. There's so much here that I just want to make sure I'm not overlooking anything. Yeah, he gets a high chance to perform an additional super attack, whereas these guys get a guaranteed chance, assuming they have over 20 key, which is not going to be that difficult to do. But I just think when I'm comparing both of these units to each other, Gogeta to me seems like he is just flat out more dominant than the blue Goku and Vegeta here. Active skill is the exact same. So really the only difference between these units is like the post transformation or post fuse forms. and then like their links and categories, and that's it. And obviously the leader skill. So a lot of these units, a lot of the parts of these units are the same exact thing, but obviously very, very ridiculously broken. Both of these units are absurd. Let's go talk about Syn Shenron real quick. I actually think this guy is going to be pretty important for the GT bosses team when they decide to finally give us like an actual leader. Up until this point, we've had the LR Super 17, who's kind of just been a terrible leader for the team. We have the LR Shadow Dragons, and now we have the Syn Shenron, who are both, I believe the LR Shadow Dragons are 130% lead for this team as well. So we really need like an LR Omega Shenron. 170 across the board for GT bosses. 3 key. And then you know what they could do now that we have this boost system, is what if they did GT bosses as the leader skill, 170% across the board, and then they could do a sub boost to that, where if you have characters that are in the Shadow Dragon saga, they get an extra 30% stats or something like that. Like that could be something that they do so that all the Shadow Dragons, like all the Omegas and all the Syn Shenrons, are getting the extra boost from this. That could be pretty good. It's hard to do that with GT bosses just because, you know, GT has kind of been wonky in terms of how this game has designed the villains for GT, but super attack effect is kind of okay. It's not crazy. Attack and defense for 1 turn. But the amount of extra damage this Syn Shenron is getting from all the different amount of orbs he has to get, like this adds up to be so much additional damage. And then he also gets like a high chance for an additional super attack. He's rainbow orb changing. This is the type of unit that the GT bosses team actually needs once we actually get that, like, you know, really dominant main rotation 170% leader. Like, again, I think it's probably going to end up being either like a Dokkan Fest baby or an Omega Shenron. We are definitely due for a new Omega Shenron. So I do like the way that they've designed this character. Just him requiring all of these orbs, I'm not a huge fan of that typically for units, but because it's a character that he changes his own orbs, I think it's fine in this case. This is going to be a very, very powerful unit. The amount of damage he'll be able to do, especially because he has big bad bosses. Like his link set is actually insanely good. Brutal beatdown, big bad bosses, shocking speed, GT, first battle, fear and faith, and Shadow Dragon. Like, you pair this guy up next to a brand new LR Omega Shenron, like huge, ridiculously powerful leader for this team, main rotation. You just run this guy next to him. Oh my god, that rotation is going to be insane. And then last we have the STR base form Broly. So I think when you compare this guy to the Syn Shenron, he probably doesn't look as impressive. But I think he actually is really, really good. So he gets attack and defense 180%, which is very high, and then he gets an additional 80% performing a super. So right off the bat, you know he's going to be doing a lot of damage. This already is really good. And then on top of that, him performing an additional super with 6 or more key spheres. Now, this is obviously an extremely powerful effect, but the main difference between this Broly and the Syn Shenron is that Syn Shenron changes his own orbs. This Broly doesn't change his own orbs, so it's going to be much more difficult for this Broly to get the 6 orbs to fulfill this condition to get the additional super attack. So I think the consistency is there for Syn, but the consistency is not there for Broly. If you could actually consistently get the additional super on this unit, this guy would actually be like almost like too good, I would say. Just the amount of defense he's getting from both of these things, plus his super attack effect, getting the double guaranteed 30% raise for 1 turn, and his damage. And then finally, he has effective against all types when attacking enemy whose HP is 80% or below. Here's a hot take probably. I actually think that's a pretty bad mechanic, and the reason why I say that is because these characters who are coming out, like with this 6-year anniversary, and honestly, a lot of the characters we've been getting over the course of the past few months, the power creep has been so immense in terms of damage that I don't think you're really entering a turn with an enemy who's below 100% HP that often anymore. Obviously, it's going to happen. Obviously, you're going to be in like Super Battle Road where there are enemies that have below 80% HP. But a lot of the time, whatever enemy you're attacking, you're just going to kill him. Like, I don't know, like, let's just think of some units that have come out recently. Like, you know, the 2 LRs that came out with this anniversary. We have Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Kid Buu. We have the AGL Trunks. Like, all of these characters do so many attacks. They do so many crits. They are shredding through these enemies. That how often do you really leave an enemy alive in this meta right now? It's I don't know. This is something we're gonna have to test out, I think, in practice. Recovers 26% HP at the end of a turn in which this character lands a killing blow on an enemy. That is like the easy A int Buhan mechanic. We haven't seen that really used that often. 26% HP is a lot. That is a very strong ability. But him having to land a killing blow on an enemy, I guess, yeah. I can see that happening pretty decently often, but we'll see. Again, another thing that's different between this Broly and the Syn Shenron is that this Broly does not come with big bad bosses, which they could have added. I mean, they gave the Broly, Chila, and Lemo LR big bad bosses, so I think that if they wanted to, they could have given them this one the big bad bosses, maybe instead of something like Berserker. But yeah, whatever. Link set is not terrible. Shocking speed, prepare for battle is very good. I'm actually really surprised that he actually has shocking speed, because that and prepare for battle together as a package is pretty decent. Saiyan lineage is also good, so he has a lot of really good key links. The only thing is the categories, right? Movie bosses, pure Saiyans, and gifted warriors. Very limited amount of teams he can be ran on, and it also is a weakness of the Syn Shenron as well. He's also only on 3 teams: Shadow Dragon Saga, GT bosses, and Inhuman Deeds. So you're really only going to be seeing this guy ran on like the GT bosses team, but the team doesn't even have a leader yet. So this guy is sort of just like, you know, once we actually get a GT bosses lead, this guy's going to be like, okay, you know, this is like the first character you put on the team. But with Broly, you could definitely build like a pure Saiyan team around him, or you know, maybe a Gifted Warriors team. But again, him not having big bad bosses, I think, does hurt him on the movie bosses team. But you know, maybe him with like other Brolys could be good, like the Int Broly, or maybe even just the STR Broly, the LR one. But that is going to do it for this video. I think I was able to explain basically my thoughts on these units and why I think they're just so good. This, like, the 2 LRs, again, the thing that makes them so broken, in my opinion, is just their exposure to the enemy, where they actually can like take a lot of damage, is almost 0. That first turn guard is going to make a massive difference, especially for events where you don't make it out of like turn 4, so you can't really fuse with them. That is going to make them shine in those events too, and I feel like that's a good mechanic to leave in going forward, where these units have like a super powerful defensive I guess tool to use during turn 1 only, so that they're not going to get like annihilated during that first turn. But yeah, they'll be crazy in every event in the game. I expect to see them all over the place on JP. So let me know down below what you guys think about these units. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one.